Hello, audience. So, today is our first episode, and I'm going to give a surprise to all of you. A special, very special guest is in the podcast now. And about her, she's Lori Richardson. She's president of Women Sales Pros, author of She Sells, Attract, Promote, and Retain Great Women in B2B Sales, CEO of Score More Sales, and she's a women in sales champion, sales influencer, and she also hosts podcast of conversation with women in sales. So I'm going to talk more about her podcast as well, because that is one of the inspiration for me to start this podcast. So welcome, Lori. I'm
Thank
honored to
you.
have you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Okay, so yeah, Lori.
So I'm so excited because you have a new book and you have a new podcast. You have so many things going on. Let's hear a little bit about your new podcast, Sell Like Her, because I want to know how you decided on the name and just a little more about that.
Okay, fine. So, first, because this is a first podcast, I also want to introduce myself, what I do. I have 18 years experience in B2B sales in industrial automation and aerospace and defense industry. And also, I do a keynote speech to colleges to create awareness to girl students. And also, I host a clubhouse again for women in sales. I'm also an author about the cumulative selling book. So this is all about me. And I come to your question, that is why this title Sell Like Her. The reason I kept this name is because a lot of women need the guidance, need the confidence to choose sales as a career. So sell like her means I want all the women who have lack of confidence, lack of awareness, to listen to other women sales leaders stories, sell like them. I want all the women to sell like the sales leaders, the successful women sales leaders, sales CEOs. That is the reason I kept this name, Lori.
So So you're inspired by the other women that have shared their stories, and I think that really makes a lot of sense. Many of us, and I know Jill Conrath is someone who endorsed your book, and I know Jill has a great story about when she was doing really well at a company, and all the men in sales were asking her, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And she said, they want to know how she's selling, and she said, "I'm just talking to people. I'm just learning about them and I'm helping them." And that's a new way of selling. It ties into what you're talking about in your new book. But so this is for women, and the reason is that you think it will be helpful for other women. I know that to be true as well, that when women see other women doing some of the things that we're doing out there, they are more comfortable to try it themselves. So I really like that. So that ties in. You're very passionate about this mission, right? Would you say so?
Yeah, 100%. I'm passionate to bring more and more women in sales. I see a lot of gender barrier, and I see lot of myths is being created in the past. Like women cannot do selling, women cannot travel alone, and women cannot have a work-life balance, take care of the family, children. If she choose sales as a career, and she do not have selling skills, so lot of myths is being created. So I want to break the myths, break the barriers by creating the awareness through this
That's
kind of podcast.
that's great. And so what topics will you cover on the podcast?
The topics I cover is like asking the women sales leaders how they started the sales journey, what is they like about sales, what kind of challenges they faced and how they overcome, and what is the selling skills which they implement which help them to grow. So a lot of their stories, their success, their sales skills, how they reach the top, these kind of questions. So I want to also ask about your podcast,
Sure.
Lori. So what is that inspired you? I know you're really so generous, so kind to take up the conversation with women in sales podcast, because I know Bobby G. Monco, she was started this podcast, and I really admire her because she was the first woman who started the podcast conversation with women in sales dedicated for women globally. That was the first. So I'm so grateful to her. I think she put the seed. That is why we are all following, and you are really doing great job taking her path and continue with this. So why you started the podcast, Lori?
Oh, well, thank you. And I'm glad that you know that story because a lot of people don't know it, that I never intended to start a podcast. But when my good friend Barbara Giamanco passed away in 2020, she, I was afraid that the podcast would just go away. As a lot of times I've seen things that women have created, and when they retire or they move on, it just stops and no one talks about it anymore. And it was such a good podcast. And she would interview 3 women every month. And, she would transcribe it. She would share their stories. She even made an ebook at one point. She was doing more of that. And she really wanted to, she was very passionate and committed to getting out the idea of more women in sales, and that to hear other women's stories would inspire women to either get into sales or stay in sales or work to be promoted into leadership. And so I got permission from her family to carry it on. And then I branded the colors and, just made it to fit more of what I'm doing. And so, it worked out really well, because I still do 3 episodes a month, and I try to talk to a wide variety of women who have all different backgrounds and different roles in selling. So we've done sales enablement and sales leadership and SDRs and BDRs and account executives, and just to give people a taste of what different women are doing in different roles, and then some of their great advice.
Wow. Yeah, I used to listen whenever I go to every day I go to office. So going from office and coming from back to home, I used to listen your podcast, and it's so inspiring to listening a lot of women stories.
Thank you. Thank you. We try, it's sometimes I could just talk for hours with some of the women. You'll find that too, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%. And even in the back, I know how many women individually you are helping, because even in the podcast, I used to listen from few girls, like how personally, you help them to grow in sales, to achieve the financial freedom, all this. So I want to ask one question to you, like, what make you to help so many women, Lori?
Well, I never intended to just try and help lots and lots and lots of people. I just started sharing what worked for me. And as it turned out, just like when I started a blog many years ago, and I blogged, I would write every day, I would write all the time, and I never thought anyone was even reading it. I didn't do it to get lots of attention, or I just shared what I learned. And then eventually people would say, "Oh, I read your blog all the time. It's really helpful." I didn't even, there's a disconnect for a long time. And I think the same as with a podcast. You don't hear instantly what people are saying, like, "Oh, you're so great." That's not why I would do it. But then over time people will come to, when all the podcasts were men, and there were hardly any women in sales podcasts. I mean, then it became more important, and then people started sharing lists, and we built a list and we shared that list of other podcasts, and we're updating it. We're going to include yours. And
Thank you.
that's when it becomes more important, when people go, there are thousands of podcasts that men are doing, but where are the women? And so that's when it becomes more important. And when they see there's a library of episodes that they can listen to. And I think the biggest thing is if we can share each other's work and support each other, that's a really great way to go.
Yeah, that's true, Lori. So, I want to talk about the reasons of starting this podcast. What I see is there are three kind of barriers I see for a woman to getting into sales. One barrier is women herself, organization barrier, and the society barrier. So women herself do not have confidence that she can get into sales, she can meet customer face to face, she can travel. So that barriers we need to break, building her confidence, building her courage to listen such stories from other sales women leaders. And organization also having a barrier. I don't know about in US, but even in India, like they think whether women can travel alone, whether the family supports her to go out, and whether she have confidently boldly speak in front of customers. That kind of barrier is also there. So I feel this podcast is also helps the organization to know the skill of a woman. Women also can do sales, and listening to other women sales leaders, that gives an opportunity for organization to choose women sales reps, executives. And number three is society. Even in my life, I didn't have a role model. I didn't know is there any women who's a mentor who can guide me.
Oh,
So who all I asked is a men to ask whether can I go to sales? Is it okay for me to go? That was the situation for me. When I started my career, out of 15 sales guys, I was the only saleswoman. And in my industry, even now, I can just handful of women I can say I've seen in sales role. So I want women to have a role models, have a mentor. So in this podcast, they are going to meet a lot of mentors, lot of guide. I know women helps other women. So in that way also it's going to help having a role model, mentors. And society, they always for me in my life, they used to pull me down, my close relatives, my friends. You should not go out, you should not travel, sales is not for you, you can't manage work life, you can't take care of your children well, all this talk. So always society used to pull down. But I have not listened to them, because we should have a belief in ourselves. It's not that I'm saying we should not listen to society, but we should decide which to listen, which not, because they have their own myths has been created in
yeah.
the past. So even society to break the barrier, this kind of podcast will help. Okay, they also, by listening other saleswomen stories, the parents, the husband also send wife in this kind of sales journey. So because of these three barriers, this podcast will help women to overcome this barrier and to choose sales as a career and to grow in sales.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think in the US, it's, maybe a little different, but without the support of the spouse, um, then it's very difficult to be successful in sales, because sales can be a hard role, and there are definitely ups and downs. And so you really need a supportive partner, to be successful. So yeah, that's true.
I see here it's more important having a family support, especially a spouse support. A girl going out, it's very much needed. So
Mm.
husband should have the confidence to send women out. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Is there anyone working remotely still? Like, can they get a sales job and work from home?
I see in SaaS it is possible. Okay, but I'm here in my kind of industry, like IT is okay, but technical B2B sales, where they have to show demo, where
Mhm.
they have to see the missionaries, So that kind of a core industrial sales, it's a bit difficult work from home. Some extent is to have kind of a conversations, negotiation we can have, a remote sales, but mm, at least sometimes the meeting is necessary outside customer
Yeah.
place. It is necessary, yeah. So,
Yeah, I do
but
think that helps women if there's any flexibility in the role, you know. Definitely helps mothers and families.
yeah, 100%. If organizations support a mother or a pregnant woman to manage both, definitely women can shine in sales.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Lori, question to you is like, uh, maybe your best episode, which really, impacted you and impacted a
Hmm.
woman, your guest.
That's interesting. I think one of my favorite episodes is with Tiffany Bova. I don't know if you heard that one, but Tiffany is with Salesforce and she is their evangelist. So that means that she really just goes and speaks on behalf of the company, and she knows a lot about technology. She's been in technology and around sales. She was an analyst for many years, and she's just really smart and has really great ideas. And I liked her confidence. I like her stories. It's really one of my favorite ones that we did. But I like everyone, you know, in different ways. You know, another one that I did, it was with a woman who had been homeless, and you know, she got a job in sales. At first, it wasn't technology, but then she moved over to technology sales, and you know, now she's a homeowner. And you know, that Jenny Anderson is her name. And she is a big champion for women in sales now too, because she knows that it can be a game changer for someone getting out of poverty. And that's really, you know, that's life changing.
Mm. I think I listened, and I think she has mentioned you helped her to getting into job in sales, if I'm right, Lori?
Well, I
Or
helped. I think I've encouraged her to launch her business on the side, which is to help other women, because I really believe in her and I believe in what she's doing. And but yeah, she's a sales leader now, and she's worked in various companies, and she's doing really well.
wow, great
Yeah.
to hear that. So we are talking about the reasons for this podcast. So first is to create awareness for women and the organization, and visibility and recognition by coming to this kind of show as a guest. They also have their visibilities and recognitions in the market, and it also builds confidence and courage, for other women to choose and grow in sales career, and to get inspired and motivated by listening other women's stories.
Yeah.
So these are all the reasons I want to start this podcast, Lori.
Can I ask you how you built your courage?
um, my courage I built uh, by facing a lot of failures, by believing in myself. I want to grow. I want to live an extraordinary life. I don't want to live a normal woman, just born one day and have a family, children, and die one day. I really don't want to do that. I think that was the driving force for me. I want to impact a lot of women, lot of people before I leave. I want to live a meaningful and fulfilled life. I want to live to the fullest of my potential. So these are all, it's driving me to face all any challenges and to move where I want to move.
That's wonderful.
And I also, my favorite role model is Oprah Winfrey. I
Mm,
used to listen a lot of her journeys.
she's amazing, huh?
Yeah, yes, yes. So she always used to say, live to your fullest of your potential and be the best version of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Oprah is amazing. I've seen her in person twice. So,
Wow.
yeah, once in New York
I don't know.
City and once in Seattle.
I want to meet her. I don't know when that day going to come.
Well, put it on your list, because
Sure.
you should be able to make that happen. I didn't meet her close up, but she spoke in two different audiences I was in. It was really great.
Okay. Actually, my talk show, um, my guest was Michelle Heck, if you
And
know
she met
her.
her. I saw her
Yes.
picture. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
she's so awesome. I love Michelle, she's so kind.
Yeah, yeah,
So also we want to open the topic of whom this podcast is for. I'm
yeah.
sure your podcast and this podcast will have the similar kind of women. So one is the woman who is in sales support role, customer support role.
Mhm.
Move them to a friend sales, field sales, AE, SDR, that kind of role.
Yeah,
That one sort of women which will help. And who is already in field sales, by listening other women success stories, their sales skills, ideas, that will make them to perform better.
yeah.
Okay. And to negotiate better, and also make them to move to the leadership role.
And even stay in their sales role, because I know
Retain.
we
Yeah.
lose women because they're around lots of men. And it's, here in the US, all the men are talking about sports and things that they're not so interested in. It feels like, we call it a locker room, like a sports locker room full of men just talking about all sorts of things. And some women just don't like that. And I would encourage them to listen to some of the stories, because you can find a company. If you're not in the right company, you can go to another company, because there's such a high demand for good women in sales, and you can build your sales skills. And you definitely need a manager, an immediate supervisor or boss who is supportive of you. And if you don't feel that, I would try to make it work, and then I would leave. I would move to another company. At least that's what we do here. And there's just so many opportunities for women right now. It's never been better.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sure your podcast also gives such kind of a confidence for a woman to move and to take such kind of a bold steps, right, Lori?
Yeah, yeah, because you have to feel like, they say go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. I've had jobs like that where I felt like nobody heard what I was saying. They didn't really appreciate me. I've been the only woman on a number of sales teams, or one of maybe two women. And I ended up going to companies where I felt like they listened to me and let me do, good things and be promoted, and feel like I was just the same as anybody else on my team.
Got it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
So can we talk about the book too?
Yeah, sure. Um, this book is for all the men and women, the young sales professionals. It gives a lot of ideas, strategies in a different angle. I'm not just going to talk in this book only about sales skills, because what I believe in is in the old age sales, it's only if you know the product knowledge you are able to sell, or at least little bit of negotiation, objection handling, you can win the sale. But now in this generation, in new age sales, it is just not the product knowledge. You need to have a positive mindset. You need to follow integrity, being truthful, being honest, being ethical, and you need to have a building a rapport with customer, and you have to build the trust, your confidence, your energy, your discipline, There are so many things you have to adopt to win the sale. Understanding their problem, adding value to them, solving their problem, genuinely, listening to them. There are so many things we have to adopt, the skills, the qualities to win the sale in this new age sale. So in my book, that is why the book name is cumulative selling. So all combination of all the skills and qualities, the result will give a successful sales. So and the end of the this book, there is one chapter called work life balance. So if you follow whatever I talked in this book, it is not only helps in achieving sustainable sales success, but also having a happy life, work life balance.
Yeah, and that's so important. It doesn't there's no good having a career if you don't have a work-life balance, for sure. You got to be able to go home and
Yes.
put that away, put it aside. Yeah, that's
Lori,
good.
we talk about your book as well. Tell me
Yeah,
about
so
your book.
She Sells is really written for sales leaders and company leaders who are mostly men, but not always, who have asked me questions for years about how to find more women to hire. I've had CEOs say, we don't even have women applying for sales roles. And in the last 2 weeks, it's amazing. I've talked to two different people who told me there was an all male sales team. I'm sure maybe that's common in India, but it's not. It shouldn't be common here in the U.S. because we know that women are stronger in a lot of aspects of selling. I mean, there's some different studies that Gong has done and others have done, and and yet they don't have women on their sales teams, and so it's in the one of the cases the man who called me said, I know a woman who she could apply because we need a sales manager, but he goes, but I don't know if I should put her in this environment with all these men, and the leaders in the company are men and everybody's male. She would be like the only woman. And I said, well, do you hear what you're saying? It's never going to change unless somebody like her steps up, and it's her issue, not yours, to decide if she should take a job. You should tell her about the opportunity. And so it troubles me that even in 2022 that we still have teams that don't even have women on them. And I am hoping that by the end of the year, no team can say that, because we just know that women do well, and we know that revenues go up, profits go up when there are men and women on a team. And so this book addresses how to not just hire women, but really help them feel included. And that's part of what an inclusive sales culture is all about, and then how to promote them over time.
Wow, I think it's going to be a gift to all the women in B2B sales.
Yeah, I hope so.
And thank you for giving an endorsement as well for my book, Lori.
Yes, my pleasure. It's a great book, and it will help people to grow and to learn how to improve. You have really good process, and I like that you're a process person, because I am too. You have to take sales that way as a process, so that will be really great.
Yeah, now we are back.
Yes,
It's okay.
yes.
Yeah. So um my mission I want to say to the audience who are listening is, my mission is to inspire, empower, and transform 1 million women to choose sales as a career and to grow in sales, to achieve financial independence, to live to the fullest of their potential, to live with self respect, self identity, and to leave a mark before they leave.
That's wonderful. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful goal. I love that you think big, and there's no reason why it can't happen.
Thank you. And tell about your mission, Lori.
Yeah, my mission is just to get more women into sales and sales leadership. I mean, we've had numbers in technology sales and in many other industries that have been flat for many years. And when you get to sales leadership, like the VP sales and above, that role has been about 12 or 13% of all the people in those roles are women, and women make great leaders and women are great in sales. So it should be much higher number. And when we see more women in leadership, we also see more women in lower roles in the company. So we really need to get that up to, I'd like to see 40% at least of leadership being women.
Wow, that's great. In India, I still feel it is only single digit of women sales pros ratio. So it need to
You have a
be
long way to go, right?
long way to go. Yeah.
Big opportunity, I say, right?
Yeah, that's true. So that is why I feel this kind of podcast will really help women to grow, and also the young sales, not sales, young girls who are in college to consider sales as a career, because I'm in the journey of going to colleges and giving speech to create awareness. So long way to go, but just putting a seeds now.
Yeah, and I've done that in the US for about the last 5 years, and it's very
Okay.
rewarding. It used to be that I would talk to young women who heard negative things about sales, but I've also talked to a lot of women who've never even heard that there's a career in sales, that, business to business sales. And so it's not just that it's a negative, but it's that people don't even know. I think that the men have kept it a good secret here in the US.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So actually, I want to say this podcast is not just me. I'm just taking one step, and all the women who wants to make this movement happen. This is not just a podcast. I would like to say here, it's a movement to bring more and more women in sales. And I just starting this journey. But I want all the women, including men, to support this movement to bring more and more women in sales to shine in sales. Yeah.
Yes, and the men are helpers. I mean, we can't do it alone. We can't do it without good men helping us to support the women being hired and support the women being promoted. So we really need male allies.
And also I want to mention this here is, women have inborn skills. I know you also agree to me, Rory.
Mhm.
Women have, they are good in negotiation.
Yes.
They listen to their intuition, judgmental, and they're really good in building a rapport. Handling the objections. They have so many good skills, which is going to add value when they choose sales as a career. What do you
Yes.
think?
Yes, and also multitasking. We can do two
Yes.
things at once easier than most men can. Nothing bad about the men, but we bring different gifts and talents to the role, and together it makes for a really great sales team.
And I want to ask you, like, through your podcast, what kind of impact it's really bringing to the women out there?
Well, I've heard from women who have, been inspired to help other women, which is really great. I've heard from people listening. I've heard from men listening to the podcast how they've learned about the stories of different women and didn't really understand how different it was for some women to deal with some of the things that have happened to them. And I've just talked to a lot of women that said, they liked a certain episode and it inspired them to ask for a promotion or for, to work to grow in their organization, or even to move to a different organization, or to just commit to the one that they're at and have a difficult conversation with someone. So there's so many different comments. And I know that's been going on. I know Barbara Giamanco had lots of feedback like that as well. So it just continues on.
And also, this kind of podcast will help women to see a 360 view. You know, now the young women and all, they just see, okay, sales is just door to door knocking job, or just traveling job, target pressure. Instead of looking only in that angle, I want all the women to see a 360-degree. Like, it's going to give you exposure. You know, you're going to travel, you're going to meet a lot of people, it expands your connections, your network. And it also makes you to give financial independence, because sales is incentive. You know, if you perform better, you earn better. And it's all black and white, no politics. What you perform, you're going to get it. So
Right.
it's going to create an identity, it's going to create a self-respect. It expand the way you think, you know, meeting a lot of different kind of a people. So I want women to see 360-degree view before they think to get the sales. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really one of the only careers where you can help plan your own future, financially, because if I have a certain quota and I exceed my quota, I know I'm going to make so much money. And if I, stop when I hit my quota, I know that I never did that, but some people do that. And I know how to grow my income. And I love that about sales, that I know that money isn't everything for everyone, because it's really important to feel like you're contributing to society and that you're helping. And that's why you find a product or service that you believe in. And then the money is a tool, and it helps you. Money gives you freedom. That's what money does. It's not, when people say, "Oh, I don't really care about the money." Well, I did. I did care about the money, because I was a head of my household, and I didn't have a husband when I was raising my son because he died. And I had to raise my son on my own. And so money was very important, but it was a tool just like anything else. And it's a tool that I could leverage to help, my son to, do the career that he wanted to do. And, it helped us to have the life that we wanted.
Wow, I totally agree. Money is also going to give you, you know, financial freedom, as well as if you have money only, you will be able to help others as well, other women as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And Lori, I really admire when I listen to your podcast, like how genuinely, you know, your guest opens up, explaining their stories, their journey, how it happens.
How? Um, I don't think it's me. I think it's the people that I invite. I know some really amazing people, and it's one of my best gifts, I think, is that I have amazing friends and contacts, and they come on and they share their story, and I might ask something that I know about them, but it's really them sharing about their amazing journeys, and a number of them, when I think of Mary Shea, who was a great guest, she was a musician previously, and Natasha Sakat, who was also a guest. She grew up, both her parents were musicians, full-time musicians, and she didn't even know what an office was like. Like, she had never seen any adults working in an office. So those stories, you can't make those up. They're really really good ones, and I just love hearing them talk.
And like, is there any method you follow to choose, you know, your guest?
Um, So the method, sometimes people want to be on, so I get a lot of people that ask me, and so I may or may not go with them. But I want people that they have to be involved in business to business selling. So either now or previously. Sometimes I've started having some men on who have a topic that we're talking about that helps women in sales, or book reviews, which is a new thing that I started. So when Andy Paul came on, he has a really great new book that we talked about. So it has to be something that really impacts and helps the audience. And I, I don't want people that are self-promoting. I just want people that are able to share what it's like to be in a sales role, dealing with all the things we have to deal with, the rejection and the up and down, kind of a roller coaster ride, where some days are great and other day you might have a low day, right? And I want people on that can relate to that and can share that. And I don't want perfect people that have everything all figured out. I want people that are learning too. We're all learning, right? I learn every day.
I totally agree. Success, it just will not happen in one day, and
Right.
nobody is perfect. So everybody have to go through the hurdles in life, and that's how the real success.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we are almost in the end of the show. So people who wants to come on this podcast as a guest, they can reach out to me in the LinkedIn, Thilaga Kumar, and even for Lori's podcast, whoever wants to reach, they can send a personal message to Lori if you're okay,
Sure.
Lori.
Yeah, through LinkedIn would be a great way to do that.
Okay, and the last question is like, I believe the routines, like every successful leaders will have their own daily routines. Like, what routines do you follow, Lori?
Um, I follow the idea about being kind to people, and every if you think that everyone is doing their very best at any given moment, then it's hard to get mad at someone, because I feel like people are trying. And so I try to be as understanding as possible, maybe particularly after the pandemic, because it changed people so much. There are a lot of people under stress, a lot of people having a hard time. And I think it's helpful to be kind, as you can. That's one of my ideas.
Yeah, so I know you're so kind because whenever, for whatever I reach out to you, you never said no. So you're so kind enough to read
Well,
my book in short time and to come on this show. So that shows how kind you are,
and
Lori.
by the way, there's a big difference to me between being kind and being nice. Because when people say I'm nice, I feel like in business, that's not necessarily a positive, because people don't describe men as being nice. And they'll say, oh, she's very nice. Well, that doesn't, but being kind, that's something that all of us need to do, male or female. Kindness is an important part of business, in my opinion. And I do see a big distinction between. I don't like to be called nice. I really don't, because I don't know if
I
I
got
am
it.
nice, and I'm very focused. I'm very targeted on what I want for success, and nice just doesn't fit into that for me, but kind does.
Yeah, I totally agree, Lori. How you really manage your time, Lori? Because I know so many women approach you, including me, right?
Yeah.
But how you manage? I see it's really difficult.
Well, I don't have any young kids. Um, so I don't have a lot of distraction, and I'm committed to getting a lot of things done. So I work on a project basis. So I track my projects every day, and maybe that is a way that I accomplish a lot. but I'm committed to getting things done, and I have a lot of support. I have an admin, and I have an assistant, I have a social media person, I have a number of people that help this whole thing work. I have 3 brands, and so trying to keep track of everything takes a lot. It takes a team.
Okay. Okay. And what is the one thing you see it's your success, secret of your success? One thing.
Tenacity. I'm not going to stop until I've accomplished what I've set out to do, even if I make mistakes. Just keep moving forward.
It's the persistence and perseverance to
Yeah,
keep you going. Okay.
the
Okay.
will, not skill, will.
Well, okay. I think women have more willpower, I believe in. They have to just
Well,
trigger
even if
in.
they're just as much, there should be more women. That's what I
Yeah.
say.
And very few guests I asked this question: how do you want to leave this planet? What do you want to leave from this planet?
Um, I, I want to leave with people thinking that I tried to help make it a better place. That I worked hard to help, particularly with improving the culture of sales. And if I did, then that's what I really set out to do. In addition to having a wonderful family and friends, and a personal life.
I totally resonate with you because for me, success means it's just not being top in the sales or a business. Success
Right.
means having a good health, happy family
Yeah.
life, also impacting society. All
Yeah.
put together is
Yeah.
success. So, thank you so much, Lori. It was so wonderful talking with you, and it's a blessing you being here.
Oh, Thilaga, it was my pleasure. And congratulations for all that you're accomplishing. It's really terrific. And I'm keeping my eye watching to see all that you do, and supporting as much as I can.
Thank you, Lori. Thanks for
You bet.
everything. Thank you. Bye.
Mhm.